Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Roscoe's recap, and this viewing party was for season 16 episode 11, and the guests this week were Brooklyn Heights and Melinda Verga. Today we're going to be talking about Mhi'ya throwing her cape on Morphine during the lip sync, whether there should be drag kings on Drag Race, and Lady Bunny calls out RuPaul for hypocrisy. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. But before we get started, are you like me that you find it difficult to sleep, especially in the mornings when there's a lot of light coming in and you get woken up? Well, that's where Manta Sleep come in, and they are the sponsor of this video. Manta Sleep are the makers of the world's most effective blackout sleep masks to help you get a great night's sleep. Manta Sleep were kind enough to send me their Pro Sleep Mask, and what I love about this is it's just so easy to wear and put on, but it's also made of really great breathable materials, which makes it so easy and comfortable to wear. But the best feature of this mask by far is what they call the C-shape eye cups, and you can see that the shape of them means that they don't put any pressure on your eyes, which also means that they're great for a side sleeper like me. And since moving to Australia, obviously I've noticed that it is, of course, a lot sunnier in the mornings and I tend to get woken up a lot. So I've noticed that these Manta sleep masks are just so incredibly blackout, which I've never had with any other sleep mask, and it means that I can just sleep through peacefully in the mornings. This sleep mask is also great, not just for in bed, but also for things like long haul flights, which when you live in a faraway country like I do, is something that you have to get used to. And Manta Sleep also have a range of other sleep masks, including cooling masks, steam masks, and even masks that have Bluetooth speakers in them, so you can comfortably listen to music or perhaps even my videos while in bed. And what's more, if you use my code, you'll get 10% off your order at Manta Sleep, which means that you will have nights of peaceful slumber without breaking the bank. Check out the link in the description and in the pinned comment. And thanks again to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video. And I actually can't see anything because this is genuinely blackout. So they started off by talking about Mhi'ya Iman LePage, who had won her third lip sync for Your Life, and there had been quite a lot of mixed reactions to it. And Mhi'ya had been a guest at Roscoe's the week before. And Naysha said that there had been a lot of chatter online about Mhi'ya, with people saying that she had a, quote, lack of personality. But Naysha defended Mhi'ya and said that not everyone has a really big or loud personality, and Mhi'ya comes alive when she performs. And Naysha asked Brooklyn and Melinda about that. Brooklyn said that she is one of those people who doesn't have a loud personality, so she totally gets where Mhi'ya is coming from. And sometimes contestants like that need to be, quote, pulled out of that a bit because it's scary being on camera and some contestants find it hard. And Brooklyn joked that Melinda is one of those people who is very, quote, wilting and shy, and everyone laughed. And just to explain this for those of you who haven't watched Canada's Drag Race Season 4, Melinda had several confrontations with people and was also seen as being quite a big personality. So this is why Brooklyn was joking about Melinda being shy. And Melinda said that not everything you see on Drag Race is, quote, the tea, and she explained that she's actually an introvert and her social battery gets depleted very easily. And the others seemed a bit confused and jokingly asked Melinda if she knows what the word introvert means. But Melinda said it was true and that she is an introvert, but when the camera is on she comes alive, whereas some people like Mhi'ya are the opposite. Naysha then asked Melinda if she felt that her edit on Canada's Drag Race was accurate. And Melinda said that she has, quote, no complaints, and she gave them, quote, all the material that they needed, deserved and wanted, and she is not going to blame it on the edit. Caramel then asked Brooklyn if they would ever have a Canada's All-Stars rather than just Canada versus the world. And Brooklyn said she would love to do that because she thinks they have so much talent on Canada's Drag Race and there are enough queens to fill a cast. But Brooklyn said she has no part in the casting process. Naysha then asked when Brooklyn finds out who's on the cast for a new season, and Brooklyn said, quote, literally when I get there. And she just shows up to set and has no part in any of the casting process and doesn't know who is going to be on the season. Naysha asked if it's ever uncomfortable if Brooklyn knows any of the contestants from before. And Brooklyn said it can be a little bit uncomfortable, but you just have to show up and get on with your job, and the queens know by now that Brooklyn is the host, so they know what they're signing up for. There was then a funny moment when they asked Melinda Verga to explain her name, and she said that it comes from Spanish. And so if you break it down, Melinda is the words mi, which means my, and Linda, which means beautiful, and the word verga is Spanish, is slang, and is a slightly vulgar term for the male genitalia. So mi linda verga means my beautiful male genitalia. They then talked about the immunity potions on season 16, and Caramel said that on Canada's Drag Race season 4, they also had something similar called the Golden Beaver, where the top queen could save one of the bottom 3, and Caramel asked how that affects the competition. Brooklyn said that she thinks it's amazing because it, quote, adds drama, because the queens have to plead their case and it gives the queens something to talk about and adds another layer of twists to the season. And Melinda said from the competitor's point of view, it makes winning a challenge more, quote, complicated, because on the one hand you're excited to win a challenge, but on the other hand you have to choose which of your 3 sisters to save, which makes it difficult. But she said that it does add drama. Naysha then asked Melinda more about her time on the show and talked about, quote, the moment, and Melinda joked that she didn't know which moment Naysha meant, but she clearly did. And I did mention this earlier, but just in case any of you are unfamiliar with what happened, on episode 4 of Canada's Drag Race season 4, there was a design challenge where the queens had to make outfits using materials provided. And Melinda created a look that she said was inspired by Vivienne Westwood, but she received quite negative critiques and was in the bottom, which Melinda was quite shocked about. But she was saved by using the Golden Beaver. And in Untucked, Melinda had a bit of a meltdown and said that she was over it and wanted to leave. And the other contestants said that Melinda was being disrespectful and she should just leave if that's how she felt. And Melinda then shouted at several of the contestants and ended up tipping a table and storming out of the room. But she later came back and reconciled with the others, and this meltdown became a big part of Melinda's storyline on the show, and there were lots of memes about it. But back to Roscoe's, and Melinda explained that she was having a, quote, out-of-body moment when that happened, and she was just letting her mouth run and wasn't really thinking about it. But Melinda said she does sort of regret how she handled it, but on the other hand, she's glad that she was able to show that being on Drag Race doesn't mean that you're perfect, and the queens are all human, and they should be allowed to show their authentic selves. Naysha then asked Brooklyn whether the judges ever find out about any of the fights that happen in Untucked, like what happened with Melinda, or do the judges not know about it? Brooklyn referenced Melinda's meltdown and said, quote, I heard it happening in real time. And Melinda said that the whole studio heard it, presumably because the sets are quite close to each other, and Melinda was shouting so the judges must have been able to hear it from the neighbouring set. Brooklyn then said that she did hear the shouting, but she didn't know what was going on exactly. And then the next day, the production crew said that Melinda had freaked out, but they didn't exactly say what happened. And so when the episode actually came out on TV, that was the first time that Brooklyn actually saw what really happened. And Brooklyn joked and said that she thought, quote, this is effing brilliant. I'm so glad you didn't handle yourself differently because that was TV gold. And everyone laughed. They then talked about the Maxi challenge for this week, where the queens had to present drag awareness employee seminars. And they talked about the last group, which was Sapphira, Mhi'ya and Morphine. And they talked about the moment where Morphine cut Mhi'ya off mid-sentence because Mhi'ya was seemingly going on for too long in her segment and was running into Morphine's time. Batty asked if the others felt that Morphine came in a bit too soon and cut Mhi'ya off. But Naysha said if you remember what the queens had said earlier in the workroom, Morphine and Mhi'ya had said that they were worried about being overshadowed by Sapphira, and Mhi'ya had wondered how she was going to stand out in the group. So Naysha said that she thinks that Mhi'ya was, quote, already plotting on doing something, like going over her time and going in on the jokes to try and stand out. Naysha also said she thinks that if the challenge is judged in groups, she thinks that Q and Plain should win, but if it's judged individually, she thinks that Mhi'ya will win because Mhi'ya was the only one who made Naysha really laugh. They then talked about the runway for this week, and the theme was DragCon 1980. And they talked about Mhi'ya Iman LePage, and Naysha joked that during the runway, Mhi'ya had said that she googled the theme, which was DragCon 1980, and they joked that nothing would have come up because there was no DragCon in 1980. And there is actually a little bit of interesting backstage tea about Mhi'ya's outfit for this week, which they didn't talk about at Roscoe's, but I have talked about it in my Have Your Say video for this week, so make sure you go and check that out and I'll put a link in the description. They also said that when Mhi'ya was at Roscoe's, she had said that she was screwed over by her designers and didn't receive many of the outfits and had to find last minute options. And they said that this may have been one of those outfits. They then talked about the fact that Mhi'ya had put on a heavy Asian accent during the challenge, which was quite different from her usual way of speaking. And the judges did talk about this during the critiques, but they were all quite careful about how they talked about it, and they kind of moved on quite quickly. Naysha then said that she is a Spanish speaker and is of Puerto Rican descent, but she wouldn't be offended if someone did her accent or if she did that accent, even though her accent isn't that heavy in real life. But Naysha said that they were all laughing at Nymphia's performance and she was using a heavy accent, and Naysha questioned whether she should feel bad about laughing and whether it's wrong to laugh at someone doing that type of accent. And Naysha said she was confused why some people thought that it was okay for Nymphia to use that accent, but other people thought it wasn't okay. Melinda, who herself is of Filipino descent, thanked Naysha for bringing this topic up and said that she wanted to bring this up anyway because it's important to talk about. And Melinda said, quote, "It's about time that us Asians are able to tell our stories in our point of view," and people cheered. Melinda went on to explain that it's important for Asians to be able to share their sounds and their stories with people, and it's okay to laugh. And she said often we're, quote, "walking on eggshells" when we're talking about other people's cultures. But it's about time that we're able to fully and 100% appreciate other people's cultures without, quote, "feeling like we're in foreign territory," especially in the US, which is a melting pot of cultures, and you should be able to share your stories. And she also said that this was a comedy challenge. They then moved on, and Cara said that last week, Naysha had said that the potential reason why they had so many design challenges on this season is due to the writers' strike that happened in Hollywood during the time of filming. But Cara said she wanted to correct Naysha politely, and Cara said that she had found out that reality shows, newscasting venues and sporting events don't have writers, they have what are called screen editors or script editors, which is how they're able to get around the union problems. But Naysha said that when it comes to other challenges on Drag Race, like the comedy SNL skit on All Stars 8, they actually did have writers. And they did look like they were going to continue this discussion, but the episode started again, so they stopped and they never came back to the subject. They then talked more about the lip sync of the bottom two between Mhi'ya and Morphine, and they mentioned the moment when Mhi'ya threw her cape over Morphine. And they showed RuPaul not looking very impressed because Ru has previously said that drag is not a contact sport, and Naysha asked what the others thought about this. Brooklyn said that Mhi'ya didn't technically touch her and she thought it was sickening, and some other people agreed. And there has been quite a lot of talk about this online, and some people said they thought it was disrespectful for Mhi'ya to do that. But other people have said that in the ballroom scene it's actually quite common to do things like that, and so Mhi'ya was just doing that. So they then moved on to the Q&A, and someone asked what the queens would like to see from casting at WoW, and they asked about drag kings being on Drag Race. And this has been a very widely talked about topic on Drag Race for years. And this prompted a very long discussion at Roscoe's about whether there should be drag kings on Drag Race. So I'll just quickly summarise the main points that were discussed. Brooklyn said that diversity is the name of the game, so she would love to see drag kings on the show. Naysha said she thinks that drag kings are artists, but she thinks that they should have their own show because it's a different style of drag, because it's male impersonation rather than female impersonation. Cara then said that there have been shows where drag queens and drag kings have competed together, and asked Naysha what she thinks the issue would be. And Naysha said that she thinks the drag queens will often get favoured because it's difficult to compare contestants who do female impersonation to contestants who do male impersonation. But Brooklyn said it's still drag, and drag kings deserve a platform like Drag Race. Batty then said that in the pageant system, you don't judge drag queens and drag kings on the same things, and if you want to break it down like that, it's hard to compare an evening gown and a tux. Naysha then used the example of how the Madonna runway would work with drag kings, and Cara said that Madonna has some more masculine looks. And Naysha also mentioned if they had a Prince runway, and Cara said that Prince would be fine because his looks were quite androgynous anyway. Batty and Naysha then joked that Caramel is a bearded queen, but didn't seem to understand the logic of what they were saying. And Cara said that she knew what Naysha and Batty were trying to say, but she thinks that you can have drag kings and drag queens compete together. And Melinda said that it was about time to switch it up on Drag Race because it's been 16 seasons, and she thinks that drag kings deserve just as much recognition as drag queens. And there was a bit more to the debate, and it did get a little bit heated, but I've just summarised the main points. And this is a great opportunity to remind people to not be hateful in the comments when it comes to these kind of heated topics. Please just keep it nice and respectful. There was then another audience question, which was about why Raja O'Hara, who won Canada vs. the World, was not included in the Canada's Drag Race winners photo shoot, which has been quite widely talked about online. Brooklyn said that she was nothing to do with organising the photo shoot, and she was just told to show up and do it. And she said that she loves Raja, and Brooklyn said that maybe they just didn't think to ask Raja, or maybe they just wanted to keep it to just the winners of the regular seasons. Or it may have also been to do with scheduling conflicts. But Brooklyn said that she has spoken to Raja about it and she's fine. And finally, there is some drama that happened that's unrelated to Roscoe's, but it involves Lady Bunny calling out RuPaul. And it happened a few weeks ago, and I did plan to mention it in a different video, but there just hasn't been an opportunity, so I thought I'd include it in this video. So, as you know, Lady Bunny is a famous drag queen and is a longtime friend of RuPaul, and Lady Bunny has been a guest on Drag Race in the past. Well, there was a little bit of surprising drama that happened recently where Lady Bunny made a few critical comments about RuPaul. In general, Lady Bunny has become known as being quite outspoken, particularly when it comes to socio-political issues. On the 4th of March of this year, Lady Bunny posted on Instagram and she said that she had ordered a copy of RuPaul's new book and she had seen an extract of it and it was about RuPaul talking about getting sober. And Lady Bunny said that this surprised her because they had never discussed that. But then Lady Bunny said that the photo she shared in the post is from a tech website where RuPaul said that he was building a bunker at his house to protect him from the quote cycle of destruction. And in the article, RuPaul said that the reason he was building a bunker at his house is because humans were on a quote cycle of destruction of the planet. But Lady Bunny pointed out that RuPaul has been heavily criticised in the past for allowing fracking on the land that he and his husband own. And just in case you don't know, fracking is a method of extracting natural gas and oil from shale rock under the earth, and it has been heavily criticised by many people as it is seen to be quite destructive and bad for the environment. And Lady Bunny said about Ru, quote, "He's making himself safe while destroying the planet." Lady Bunny also said that RuPaul is a hypocrite and had the climate change ball on season 10 to raise awareness about climate change, but then he allowed fracking on his land. And Lady Bunny said that RuPaul and his husband, quote, "will be in their bunker safe and sound away from floods and extreme weather which their actions have caused." And on the back of this, there's been talk for years about RuPaul and fracking, and many contestants have even joked about it, such as Bob and Peppermint. And RuPaul had never really spoken about this before, but in a recent interview with Vulture, RuPaul addressed the fracking controversy and defended his actions and said, quote, "Do you buy gas? Before you point the finger, smell it first, B." And RuPaul ended by saying, quote, "There's no combination of words I can put together that would soothe the mob." You may have also seen that RuPaul recently launched an online bookstore called Allstora, which is supposed to be an all-inclusive online bookstore. However, the bookstore has received a lot of criticism because it sells several books that are seen as very right-wing, such as Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. And there were also several other books being sold that are anti-trans and were written by prominent authors who promote anti-trans and anti-LGBT+ rhetoric. And at first, Allstora responded by saying that they are an all-inclusive bookstore and they don't necessarily agree with the content of all of the books that they sell, but they don't agree with banning books. And they said that they would start labelling some books as, quote, controversial, and the proceeds from any books that were flagged as controversial would be donated to the Rainbow Book Bus charity. However, the co-founder and CEO of Allstora, Eric Savini, later issued a lengthy apology and said that he took full responsibility for the situation and implied as though it was not RuPaul's fault, and said that several of the books have since been removed from the Allstora website. However, this whole situation was talked more about by Lady Bunny, and she further criticised RuPaul in a subsequent Instagram post. In the post, Lady Bunny said that RuPaul said that the bookstore is supposed to be for the queer community and, quote, for your people and our people. But Lady Bunny said that the site sells books by extreme transphobes, such as the founder of Libs of TikTok, as well as Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And Lady Bunny said, quote, those ain't my people, Ru. Lady Bunny also mentioned All Stora's response to the situation about community flagging books that are controversial. And Lady Bunny said, quote, why did you need the help of the community to do the right thing, All Stora? Why not just stop selling what many on the left consider to be hate speech? And Lady Bunny ended the post by saying that this was, quote, rainbow capitalism, and Ru could have just said, quote, I want to sell all kinds of books, but here are my faves, and no one would have had an issue with it. And it doesn't look like RuPaul has responded to Lady Bunny's comments so far, but many people were surprised that Lady Bunny has so openly criticised Ru, even though they have been good friends for years. So we'll have to wait and see if there are any further developments on this. So there you go, there was the Roscoe's recap for Drag Race Season 16, Episode 11. Let me know what you thought about this week's episodes in the comments, but please remember to keep it respectful. And I'd like to give a special shout out to my newest Patreon member, Ashley, who recently joined in the You're a Winner Baby tier. Ashley, you are a winner baby. And I'd also like to say a huge thank you to all of my incredible Patreon members who really do keep my channel going. In the You're a Winner Baby tier, we have Ashley, Bailey, Emerald1508, Ethan, Kat, Lisa, PC Smush, Rachel, Rochelle, and Sam. And in the Shantae You Stay tier, we have Amy, Anna, Becky, Charlie, David, Emmy, Linda, and Shelby. You are all absolute legends, and thank you so much for your incredible support. It really does make such a massive difference to my channel, so thank you so much for everything. And if you'd like to have your comment featured in my Have Your Say videos, as well as get early access to my videos and priority when submitting interview questions, please consider signing up to my Patreon and supporting my channel, and I'll put a link in the description. Please make sure you like, comment and share this video, as it really helps support my channel. And of course, please make sure you hit the subscribe button to stay up to date about new uploads. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!